Hello everyone, welcome back to another NR format video. So today we're going to be looking at Metaphys Mutant. This is a brand new deck that has hit the NR landscape, and it's all possible thanks to the release of DD Post. DD Post has three effects. The first effect says that all monsters you control basically gain 900 attack, right? They gain 300 for each of your banished card types, so each copy of DD Post can give you up to 900 extra attack on your monsters. But that isn't the crazy part of it. The crazy part is the second and third effect. So the second effect says that once per turn during the main phase, you can banish one card from your hand or graveyard, then shuffle a banished card back into the deck. So this effect is why it synergizes well with the Metaphys cards. All of the Metaphys cards have some sort of effect when they're banished. The third effect, it says that if this card itself is banished, you can place it face up on your field. So that is why we're playing the Proofiness. Proofiness says that when you normal summon this card, you can banish a trap card from your deck, and then you can just banish the DD Post and it places itself face up on your field. That is why we're also playing the Spell Chronicle, and we'll get to Spell Chronicle in a second. So for the Metaphys engine, we're playing the 3 copies of Metaphys Daedalus, which the first effect of it is if it's special summoned by the effect of a Metaphys monster, you can banish all face-up spells, face-up special summon monsters in the field. And if it itself is banished, then during the next standby phase, you can basically shuffle this back and banish any card. You're most likely banishing the Ascension. Metaphys Metaphys says that, if it's special summoned by a Metaphys card, you can banish all set spells and trap cards on the field. And then if itself is banished, then you can add a Metaphys card during the next standby phase. Tyrant Dragon, the first effect is not relevant for my deck, but if you do manage to trigger it, it basically, if it's special summoned by a Metaphys monster, it is unaffected by trap cards and can make a second attack. However, Tyrant Dragon's second effect is the main way you trigger the effects of the first two, which is during the next standby phase after it's banished, you can special summon a Metaphys monster from your hand. So I only play the 1 copy of Tyrant Dragon, so I can't get the first effect of it, but you can play 2 copies if you would like to. I just didn't feel like I needed this effect. We're also playing 3 copies of Ascension. The on-field effect is not bad. It's basically like a Salamangreat gift, so you can discard a Metaphys card, draw a card, then banish a Metaphys card or Metaphys monster from your deck. It's really good at triggering the other card. We're gonna get into it. The banish effect of it is really good though. Like if it's banished, you can add any Metaphys card. So Metaphys Ascension also pairs well with Proofiness and Spell Chronicle. Spell Chronicle, by the way, you basically just need to discard at minimum 1 card to then banish the Ascension and the DD Post from your deck at the same time. I'm also playing the 1 copy of Blackout to then also get a level 4 token, level 4 tuner token, or token, yeah, that's funny. Level 4 tuner token to my fields, which will then allow us to make synchro monsters. So it's really good in that aspect. Spell Chronicle is just an insane card, as you're going to find out in the replays ahead. We're also playing 1 copy of Dimension. Dimension has 2 trigger effects. The first one is if your opponent special summons a monster, you can special summon one of your banished Metaphys monsters. Notably though, this doesn't trigger their special summon effects because they can only be triggered if they're special summoned by a Metaphys monster. So Dimension just basically puts like big bodies on your field. However, the second effect of it is more relevant. If your Metaphys card is banished, you can banish any card on the opponent's side. So that's actual removal. That is the more relevant effect. You can trigger it with the Metaphys Ascension's first effect, or you can trigger it with DD Post. So that is the synergy there. I'm only playing 1 copy because it's just a brick to draw it without having access to, your engine in any ways. So I like to just search the Dimension with the Ascension or the Metaphys Metaphys and then go from there. But you can absolutely play 2 copies of Dimension, because if your opponent outs it, then it's really annoying because you have to waste one of your DD Post effects to essentially recycle the Dimension. So, however, you're gonna find out, like, we put so much pressure on the opponent that whenever they choose to go after any of our cards, it always comes at a cost. Like, there is no card that they can go after in this deck for free, essentially. So 1 copy never really ended up mattering, but you can play 2 copies. We're also playing the Mutant engine, of course, the 3 copies of SD46, the 3 copies of Minimalian. Minimalian can basically fetch SD46 from the deck, but it also, the first effect says that you can banish any other card from your hand to special summon it. So the Minimalian is actually what synergizes with the Metaphys cards, and that is why you play the Metaphys engine with the Mutant engine. So 2 copies of Mutant Mist, 2 copies of Evolution Lab, and 3 copies of Expansion. It's a very consistent engine. Most games you'll find yourself, getting to the Mutant engine, and it exerts so much pressure on any sort of trap deck. Like Mutant Mist, if your opponent activates a trap card or effect, you can just banish any card and draw 2 cards. So you can banish a Nephthys and draw 2 cards, a Nephthys or an Ascension, and then both of these will trigger to search a card. So essentially, Mutant Mist basically becomes a +3 if your opponent, activates any trap card. It's insane in that aspect. So, or a +2 actually, yeah, a +2. So it's insane in that aspect. So for the generic cards, we're playing 3 Mystical Space Typhoon. I just felt like this is really good, especially in the mirror matchup. It's just good at dealing with cards like Spell Chronicle, Mutant Expansion. Like there's a bunch of continuous spells. It's also clean out to Deity Post as well. So it's just a really good card to have in this format. I'm also playing the 3 copies of Marilla. As I said, Marilla can dump the Deity Post or the Ascension, which can then be banished by the Proofiness. But I also just like a Paleo because you can revive the Paleo as a body, and these Paleos can get up to like 3000 attack, so not bad at all. In fact, this is why I have in my suggestions, you can just play more Paleos and just do like a DD Post Paleo control deck as well, if you'd like. You can also just get rid of the extra deck and just play like an Encamofrite, or get rid of the Link monsters and play Link Apple. And then, Link Apple draws you a card, and then you can even play specific synchros that gets you effects when they're banished. So the Shiranui synchros have effects when they're banished, the Synchro 5 and 6. But that's up to you. Like, I don't think it's a good idea, but if you feel like you need the consistency, then go for it. You can also just play more Disruption. The Mutant Mist cannot be destroyed by card effects because of Mutant Expansion. So you can just play Torrential, wipe your opponent's board and attack with a big Mutant Mist. And you don't really care about your Metaphys monsters, you're mostly banishing them anyways, so it doesn't really matter if they leave your field. So yeah, that's it for the main deck. For the extra deck, we're just playing the 3 copies of Synchro 7s, which you can make with the SD46. The 1 Synchro 8, it's the only generic one that we can make with the Minimalian. The 1 Synchro 9 that you can make with the Proofiness. After you use its effect, it increases its level by 1. We're playing Grampulse to basically make with the 2 SD46s, same with the Armor Torpedo. We're also playing a big rank 8 engine, so you can use the Metaphys Nephthys, the Tyrant Dragon, and the Mist to essentially go for a Draglubion. With Draglubion, you can go for either a Heartland Draco, which can attack directly, and it's also insane because it has 2000 attack, but it's boosted by DD Post as well. So this card can get up to 3800 attack with just 2 copies of DD Post, and that's a lot of damage to be attacking directly with. You can also go for Doom Chimera, which has 1000 attack if you summon it with Draglubion, but with 2 copies of DD Post up, it gets up to 2800 attack. So it's like it can really just, if your opponent has a big board of monsters, you can just clean it, and it has the other effects are also not bad. You can, keep boosting it by attaching monsters. You can disrupt your opponent's graveyard with it as well. I never really resolved this card because I didn't feel like I need to, but it's good in concept. If your opponent just has a board full of monsters, you can just go into this card and clean their board, even go for a game. Also playing the Heart-Earned Dragon, of course. We're also playing the Thylematic Cladis, which basically, if your opponent activates a spell card, it puts spell counters on it, and then you can use those spell counters to add any spell. So you can just add the Spell Chronicle or the MST from the deck. You can even add the Mutant Evolution Lab, which can revive one of your SD46s, so you can just go for another Mutant Mist. And yeah, playing the 3 generic Link monsters, you can Tiger Lizardos deals with big bodies, Triple Burst for dealing piercing damage and dealing with battle phase effects, and Power Coated Power Code is a personal choice. You can replace this with anything, but I just like the generic negate. Like it randomly comes up against like illusion monsters, but I just like having it. Anyways, that's it for the main deck and the extra deck. We're gonna get into the replay. Right, so the first replay is against Wizrad. We won the coin toss, chose to go first, and basically just opened the full combo. So ST46 adds a Mutant Evolution Lab, banish it, summon the Mutant Mist, set 2 cards, and now use Spell Chronicle, banish the Blackout, Ascension, and the DD Post. All 3 of those trigger. Get the Search, we get the token, and we get the DD Post. Don't have any monsters to go for a Synchro though. Set the Dimension and pass. The opponent notably has bricked on their cards, so they don't really have that much to play with right now. We put the Dimension face up. They summon a Thiswern. They'll activate the Exoraptor, and I realized that when they discard the Torpedo Takedown that they're playing some sort of rank 3 deck. So, and they've already used it normal. As soon as they summon it, I'm just gonna banish the Thiswern, hoping they don't have any extenders, and then their deck just falls apart. And yep, that's all it took. Wizrad sees it coming and just concedes. Alright, the next replay, we're going against a Pacifist deck. So the opponent went first, sets 2 trap cards and passes. We've opened a pretty decent hand again. We're gonna go for the Mini Million. They will immediately hit it with the Dinomishus, but we do have the ST46 in hand. Just add the Evolution Lab, shuffle back our Mutant Mist, and then go for the Mutant Mist from the deck. They will chain the Primite Howl now because they can't do it, you know, if the Mutant Mist already hits the field, because then I'll get to draw 2 cards. So summon the Mutant Mist, set the Dimension and pass. They top deck a card D, send by phase we trigger the Daedalus, banish the Ascension, Ascension adds a Nephthys. They're gonna draw 2 with the card D, we just flip up the Dimension just to have it face up on the field. Normal summon the Proofiness, banish the DD Post now puts itself on the field, banishes the Nephthys which trigger the Dimension, just banishing the Spiral Dragon. We also use Proofiness to get rid of their Primite Howl from their graveyard, so attack in for a bunch of damage. At this point, they can't activate any trap cards because Mutant Mist will just, you know, negate any advantage that they would gain from that trap card. We already have Dimension up and DD Post, so we can keep banishing their cards, and we're also just drawing into a bunch of engine cards as well. So we're gonna trigger the Nephthys, search for a Tyrant Dragon, and they see it and they concede. So I hope you're starting to notice some sort of pattern here. Alright, next duel is against I Wish, and they made me go first. And they're playing a sort of basically an evil hero deck. So we open the Proofiness, go for the DD Post, banish the Ascension, add the Dimension, set 3 and pass. We're gonna go for the Durandal, add the Blazeman, go for the Fusion Sage, add the Polymerization, activate a Supreme King's Castle. Supreme King's Castle basically makes it so that they don't need Dark Fusion to summon these evil hero fusion monsters. So Darkest Night on summon reduces the attack of the opponent's monster and can make a second attack as well. We activate the DD Post. I realized that I may die here because of Supreme King's Castle, because during the damage calculation it can boost up its evil hero monster, and the Darkest Night can attack twice, so I decided to just banish the Supreme King's Castle. However, they just had a second one anyways. But because of this face down card, you know, they were afraid that this card would be some sort of disruption, and so decided to make the safe play of just banishing with Supreme King's Castle to boost up the Wish's Claw. And just so that they can get another Sinister Necrom into the graveyard for next turn. But that does mean that they miss out on lethal on this turn. Proofiness resets Emerella. They'll set one and pass. We'll activate Metaphys Metaphys, or sorry, an Ascension. Chain the Dimension to banish the back row. They will just bounce our DD post. We now go for the Morella, banish or dump another DD post. Tyrant Dragon now summons the Daedalus, banishes both his monsters. They resummon the Blazeman. Go for the Sinister Necrom now. We chain DD post. Or no, we just flip it up. We're not activating DD post as yet. They go for another Darkest Night. But now we go for DD post, banishing DD post. DD post revive or puts itself face up, and it's a soft once per turn. We can use it again. So we banish the Metaphys Metaphys, which triggers now the Dimension, banish the Supreme King's Castle. Because of both of these DD posts up, despite the fact that they have a Darkest Night, our monsters are still too big for him to deal with. So he's just gonna crash to revive a tuner to go for a synchro play, but at this point we're just way too ahead now. Like, they can't deal with our board. We also use the Dimension to revive another monster, and they're just gonna concede. Alright, so this next duel is against Mono, playing the Shadow Succession deck. We went first, open Spell Chronicle. You already know how this goes. Activate the 3 effects. Set up DD pose, search Dimension, summon the token. Still no monster to use with the token though, so we're gonna set the Dimension. Mono has 4 trap cards, which is not good into my deck. We're gonna set and pass. We activate the DD post to shuffle back the MST, because I realize again that I will need MST in this matchup. But we also get to... Or no, I messed up here. I messed up. Dimension needs to already be face up on the field to activate any of its trigger effects. I'm pretty sure. So the fact that it wasn't face up already, or it needs to go like... the fact that it wasn't face up on the field means that we can't use it. Like, it needs to either be like Chain Link 1 or something. That's probably the only reason. So anyways. Summon the SD46, add the Mutant Evolution Lab, activate the MST, and luckily hit the Succession. By the way, Mono for some reason didn't set the other Succession. I don't know, maybe just worried about, what my deck can do. SD46 now. We're gonna trigger to summon a Mutant Mist from the deck. And Mutant Mist against like Succession decks is just too much. Like, every time they activate any trap card, I get to draw 2 cards. So this matchup is just terrible for any trap deck. We go for the Synchro 7 for Meteor Burst in case they have like a Battle Fader or something. Set and pass. They draw into a Squamata, but even though they have a Succession, Mono realizes that they just like the Mutant Mist will draw 2 cards. The Meteor Burst means that even if they set the Squamata, it doesn't matter. It will not be able to activate. We also have the Dimension banishing cards, and so Mono just concede. Next duel is against SC43, playing the Tindangle Fiend deck. They went first, and their opening hand notably is not that good. But we also drew 3 Metaphys monsters, so our opening hand is not that great as well, but we do have access to DD post, which is the most important part. So we're gonna dump another DD post with Morella, use the DD post to banish the DD post. This time we do trick, or no, yeah, I made a mistake. I accidentally shuffled it back, so you can choose not to shuffle back, but I did there. So we only have 1 DD post. They will out the Morella with the Matter Forwarder. IMF. Titan Dragon activates, summons the Nephthys, which banishes all set spells and traps. They are forced to use Fiend Griefing in return. Fiendish Rhino Warrior dumps a Diabolica. We normal summon the ST46. Oh wait, what did the Fiendish Rhino Warrior... Oh no, dumps a Geralt, sorry, yeah. We summon the Mutant Mist, go for... activate the Ascension, add the Dimension, and pass turn. I don't want to find out what the set card is. We can immediately banish it anyways, so... They dump the Diabolica, add the Geralt. Geralt now dumps a Intruder, sends a Delawane, sets itself, Intruder triggers now. We just banish their IMF. Now they normal summon the Intruder, dump an Angel. We activate a expansion, just thinning out the deck. End phase, the Metaphys is banished. Activate Nephthys, add the Ascension. Activate Daedalus, banishing a Nephthys, which triggers the Dimension once again. Activate DD Post now, recycling the Mutant Evolution Lab. So I always like to recycle my Evolution Labs, because this card, after you have a ST46 in rotation, Evolution Lab is basically an extender at that point. So you can use it to revive one of your banished ST46s. Overlay for a Grand Pulse, deal with the last back row. And I don't want to trigger the Intruder's effect here because they have a Delawane in the graveyard, but Delawane needs 3 Tindangle monsters with different names, and they don't have a Geralt in rotation. So I didn't want to flip up Intruder because it can just add the Geralt. Instead, I just choose to banish it right here. So they don't have access to Geralt anymore. We add another Ascension. However, they activate the graveyard effect of Puppetry to just add the Geralt anyways. Use the IMF, banish it, reset it, activate its effect, dump a Shadow Dragon. We use the... Shadow Dragon outed the Dimension, but had I been playing a second copy of it, I wouldn't be forced to, recycle it with the DD Post. So if I was playing a second copy of the Dimension, I could have banished the Ascension, search a Dimension, and then also shuffle back one of my cards. So this is where playing one copy of Dimension really hurts. However, you can see we immediately shuffled it back into the deck and we didn't really lose that much advantage. So the mutant cards are so good at thinning out the deck. Find a Nephthys at the top, Daedalus, banish another Nephthys, use Evolution Lab, find a Spell Chronicle, insane, but we don't even need it anymore. They have to activate their trap card, but we just chain Mutant Mist. They summon a Diabolica. We summon another Mutant Mist, activate the Mutant Evolution Lab to revive a ST46. Search another card. Go for the big triple burst, so to deal piercing damage over the Diabolica, and then Mutant Mist into the zero attack Geralt. ST sees it coming and concede. So just look at the card advantage. This deck is so insane at just, fueling up the entire hand. So the last replay is against Mia. This is the finals of the NRJP Daily. They won the coin toss and chose to go first. And I want you to notice they're playing a lot of back row removal because they made their deck specifically to counter mine. So, and we open like 2 bricks as well here. We go for the ST46, add the Evolution Lab, summon the Mutant Mist, use the Evolution Lab to put back the brick. They will use the... We went for the Spell Chronicle, but they use the MST to get rid of it, so we don't get the insane effect of it. End phase, they will just hit our back row with the Olenoids, but that does allow us to use the Mutant Mist's effect to draw 2 cards. And draw into another Spell Chronicle. We're gonna go for a Cursed Javelin now to out the Mutant Mist. We set a card, go for the Spell Chronicle, banish 3 cards. Summon the token, add the Metaphys card, add DD Post, recycle the Dimension. They top deck a Snopios, or a Sykes, which is not bad at all. Adds a shift and banishes it. We banish the DD post to recycle a Evolution Lab, just to use it as an extender. Now we go for the Ascension in the end phase. They will trigger their Olenoids in response. We draw into a Morella. Draw into a Proofiness, which is really good. So we'll also now search for the Dimension, banish another Nephthys with the Daedalus. They will revive back their ship. Go for the Proofiness, fetch a second copy of DD Post, and now things get crazy. With 2 copies of DD Post, not only are all of our monsters boosted by 1800 attack, but we can do some insane shenanigans with 2 DD Posts up. So we just banish their Olenoids with the Proofiness. They get rid of our Proofiness with the Goaty Fury, but we summon a Morella, and this Morella is 3000 attack. Insane. Now DD Post banishes a Titan Dragon, recycles an Ascension. The second one banishes the Ascension, recycles an MST. Ascension activates, adds a Metaphys. So we banish the Titan Dragon. We can now use its effect on the next turn. We flip up the Dimension. Titan Dragon summons the Metaphys Nephthys from the hand, which banishes our set spell and traps. They will just chain it though. It is double hooking, and they also send a Nimble Angler to use its effects. So the opponent gets a bunch of bodies on the field. They also get to search with Sykes for an Enoch. The Proofiness comes back. They go for the Abyss Keeper to summon the Enoch. We chain the DD Post, banishing the Daedalus. Recycling another MST. They summon the Enoch, but we just banish it immediately. We also trigger the effect of the Dimension to revive our monster. And look at these guys. They're so big. By the way, they banished our Spell Chronicle with Abyss Keeper, because that was the only card that was worth banishing in this position. Like, they couldn't banish any of our DD posts. Like, even if they banish Dimension, it doesn't matter. Our monsters are just so big. And so they just banished Spell Chronicle just to deal us a bit of damage. And now they just keep... This is a 4400 attack Daedalus, by the way. And we top deck the MST. That deals with the Goaty Fury. You just go battle phase. They will activate Goaty Fury. We chain the MST. And at this point, we just have way too much advantage. The opponent is now top decking. We set the Morella. We recycle the MST once again. End phase, we banish both of our Metaphys cards to then trigger their effects again in the standby phase. Add the Ascension. Banish another Metaphys card. Just banish another Titan Dragon. They do find a Mermaid Shark off the top, but it's just not enough. We banish the... we're gonna banish the Mermaid Shark before they can go into any sort of link plays. And Mia just concedes. So that just showcases the power level of this deck. Most of these duels were not even like... They were not grindy. They didn't really like... It was just basically... Once I had the setup, the opponent was just always struggling to out the setup. And I don't think I've ever gotten into a grind game with this deck. It's always just either I overwhelmingly win my duel, or like I break, or just lose immediately. But like this deck just pumps out the advantage like nothing else we've seen before. So anyways, let's get into the closing thoughts. So we're here with the closing thoughts, and basically this deck is just warping the meta around itself. Because right now, you just can't play any other trap deck. At least not if you want to beat this deck. It just completely destroys any deck that wants to play back row. And the only decks that are able to deal with this deck are like sort of like, monster heavy decks that rely more on their effects. So like Infernoids, for instance, which just have all of their disruption in their monsters. Or a Cyber's Pile, which doesn't really care about, one of its cards being banished. It can immediately recover it. And this deck cannot deal with the Cyber's Luck. So, besides those kinds of decks, any other like control trap type style decks just cannot compete with this. This is why this is considered like one of the best decks right now. So yeah. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to press that like button. And if you want more NR content in the future, please consider subscribing. It helps out the channel. I am trying to get monetized, so it would really be appreciated if you just hit the subscribe button. And yeah, anyways, that's it for today. Adios.